The manner in which life has come to a virtual standstill in the national capital region following a heavy downpour over the past 3 days compels us to look critically at the government's smart city mission and also to understand what exactly is the mission all about. To discuss these and a lot more, today we are joined by Dr. Amitabh Kundu. He's a senior fellow with the Sustainable Cities and Transport Program at WRI. And we have Mr. Nishikant Mohapatra, the national spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party. So welcome, gentlemen, to the show. I would like to begin the program with Dr. Kundu. So this smart city program, which was announced in 2015, and it's been some time now, almost 7.5, 8 years, and it has very categorically spelled out some things like promoting cities with providing core infrastructure, providing core smart solutions, clean and sustainable environment, and so on. So, do you think the smart city program has actually enabled our cities to become smarter?
You see, smart city program has two components. One is this area-based development, other is the pan city program. You pick up certain infrastructural deficiencies and then try to improve it all over the city. I was looking at New Delhi's smart city plan, and you find that the area-based development has taken place in 2 or 3 areas where, they're not the poorest areas. And they're, in New Delhi, Connaught Place area or around the, the market, Netaji market. So basically, that was one question that struck me, that, this is an idealistic thinking. And I thought Aam Aadmi Party had that projection before all of us. If they would have selected 2 of the most backward, less developed areas of Delhi and shown to the whole country that, look, this is what we want to use smart city mission, targeting the most vulnerable sections. That is one thing, choice of the area under the smart city mission. Secondly, I looked at 106 projects quickly, which are really taken up for infrastructural development. I did not find much emphasis on the drainage system or the sewerage system, excepting 1 or 2 projects. I found that perhaps the sewerage is a part, but I was wondering, why is it, since Delhi has the problem of flooding, sewerage system not working, and with rainfall of 50 millimeters a day, things come to a standstill. How come out of these 106 projects which were being talked about, and I think 86 of them are more or less near completion, how come the focus was not on drainage and sewerage disposal? I mean, that is one query that I have in my mind. I wish I get an answer to that.
Yeah, so Mr. Mohapatra, as Dr. Kundu has rightly raised this point that, even this was pointed out during the 22 economic survey, Delhi economic survey, saying that out of the 106 projects, 86 projects have almost met completion. So even if we see the amount of projects that have met completion, and we see the scenario over the last 2.5, 3 days, there seems to be a huge discrepancy in that. Would you like to answer that?
No, actually, residing in Odisha, it will be a bit difficult to exactly pinpoint the Delhi problem. But still, as a party man, as I got to know the problems, basically, the first phase for governance, we strongly focused upon this, basic requirements, as we always work on that, like water connectivity, electricity connectivity. And we have done a very good job on that. And roads, rightly Kundu sir told that it would have been better if some areas would have been chosen, that is, slum areas or down market areas. But to me, Delhi is very small, geographically putting. It's a small area, and wherever you take up, we have done a lot of work on ground recharging, water storage, renovating or again getting back the ponds, Delhi's natural water bodies, reviving it, and drainage for that part is a very critical issue, because urban drainage system and the natural drainage getting struck with the growing infrastructure, habitation, all that things. The problem is very much, it's not so simple that you will address the drainage system at a go. We have done many works to mitigate the drainage problem, but still, I think a lot of work is to be done, and that is the point where the Delhi government is still working on it. As we had promised, this solid waste management, wastewater management, doing some works, but exactly sir put it in a right perspective, that unless you have a solid drainage system, and these flash floods will take place, urban flooding will taking place, and Delhi has been facing this situation for a long time. It's not a day's problem, but we are working on it, and I think somebody
So
from
if
Delhi,
I was just
my party, would have been in a better position to address the issues of Delhi.
So, if I was just to ask this question, Mr. Mohapatra, that the Chief Minister, Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, he has been employing, or he has been saying that he is employing, the best practices world over, to address civic issues,
Exactly.
but when we saw the heavy downpour over the last 2-3 days, it didn't seem that such practices have actually been applied to, or it's
No,
not yielding results.
that's not the negation that good practices are not in practice. I have seen the infrastructure in Delhi improving quite a lot. But again, there is a lot to be done. It's not, the end of the road. Rather, it's a beginning. We have done in some sectors. As you know, our priority areas, schools, hospitals, electricity, and water management also, to make Delhi self-sufficient in water. But drainage in some areas has been a problem, and we are working on it. It's not that we have left the Delhi drainage system, and I think the government has taken note of it very strongly, and they're doing whatever is possible. It will take time.
Dr. Kundu, if we were to look at the issue more holistically, longer urban planning and urban development, do you think a top-down approach can actually solve the issue? Because a top-down approach is, it's said that it's not actually solving the issue.
Since you're talking about long-term planning, let me just mention one thing. I mean, I'm very happy that this discussion is not that attacking the present government. We are in Delhi and then trying to give a rebuttal in a politically agitated manner. We are really discussing the issues with some kind of an empirical rigor. First thing that strikes me, that the present situation that we have in Delhi in the last 2-3 days is an extreme situation. You cannot have a long-term planning, assuming that continuously for 3 days, you will have rainfall of 150 millimeters. If you do that, if you plan for a long term, assuming that such things will happen, then the cost will go up enormously. Basically, what you should do, take average plus, 2 standard deviation. So plan for a reasonable amount. And then if it exceeds, there has to be proper emergency response system. That is what we should do. But you can't really assume an extreme situation and make planning for infrastructure. So that's where I am certainly, in a way, saying that such inundation that takes place now is enough. I mean, you can't really plan before 20 years taking this into consideration. But my question to Mr. Mahapatra would be, do we have this emergency response system? The areas where, water logging is taking place, people are not able to come out, life has been totally destroyed. That emergency system should come in operation. But you cannot really ensure in an extreme situation also there will be no water logging for a few hours. But my submission is this, that the emergency system should have come into operation.
Exactly.
Secondly, since you're talking about top down and bottom up approach, I thought Aam Aadmi Party was giving this philosophy that from bottom what comes up, village the khas aadmi in the Delhi government and also in the central government. But that, I have a feeling, is not happening. I think people's preference was primarily for transport and water supply sanitation. And these are the two primary areas of concern. I wonder how much freedom you had in choosing the sectors and the projects under Smart City Mission. I thought, technically speaking, it was for the Delhi government to decide. But that is one area. And I think this bottoms up approach, which is being envisaged, and at least the our chief minister is talking about it. To what extent this has been actually operationalized, that I would like to know, and that would have certainly addressed the priorities of the local population.
Sir, sanitation actually was still now under MCD, and we have got it and we are fixing it. You must be seeing that our ministers even, without of emergency situation emerging, and what kind of preparedness you have for that to tackle it, this kind of rainfall, all that. All our ministers, all our MLAs are on road, and they're seeing whatever can be done. That's one way of engaging the party as well as leaders into solving this Herculean task of 3 days incessant raining. And secondly, on the Delhi government has done a lot of interventions in the areas, priority areas, are as Amitabh sir pointed out. We have done water supply. It has been quite increased, and a lot of area has been covered for water supply. Is getting as it was. I was a student when I was in Delhi, and I know what kind of water scarcity was there, but it has improved a lot. Similarly, sewerage system and this sanitation. On this,
Mr. Mohapatra, if I was, if you'd allow me to intervene, before the Aam Aadmi Party, took, they occupied the MCD. They kept saying that the civic body is not with us now. There are a lot of civic responsibilities which cannot be fulfilled by the party. Now, since the MCD is with the party, now what is the pitch now?
yes, after we won the NCD also, it took another 3-4 months to settle down, and the government fought for it. And we have taken all steps, like, the sanitation has been incentivized. The sanitary workers for their performance has been incentivized. The focus has been on sanitation and timely picking up the garbage management system. Some progress has been done, and I was just recently into the city, and I saw there is a marked change in the sanitation issue there in Delhi also. But the point is that Delhi has been, our government, as Mr. Kundu rightly said, our government has very limited power, and there are three, there is the LG.
I was just coming to that. I was just coming to that point, talking specifically about Delhi. and how important, I mean, anybody could
Yeah,
respond.
I'll just add one more line, and then
Yeah.
as this corona came, and no
Right.
amount of health preparedness can make that. Though we
Mhm.
learned that epidemics come and your regular system is inadequate to meet that, so you have to have emergency arrangements for that. Similarly, this 3 days flooding requires no amount of planning, as Professor Kundu told rightly, that no amount of planning can meet it, but the exigency arrangement, the your preparedness to meet this sudden and outburst. That is the point, and the government is doing to its best to meet this unprecedented raining.
Well, on the one hand, you say that no amount of planning can make it, but when we see cities, burgeoning cities, especially with infrastructure projects coming up, obviously we need to undertake, the civic bodies need to support in upgrading the corresponding facilities like sewage, stormwater, drain outlets, etc. So these are all accompanying facilities which need to support need to prop up the city infrastructure. So,
Yeah,
how can we
yes,
say that?
you need to prop up the city infrastructure, but simultaneously the problem of residential areas, colonies coming up on the plateau or water areas where the water natural drainage system got struck. The entire choking of the drains, all that things, your non-availability of solid waste management, that again chokes the drains. Many things are happening, and you have to take a concerted effort. One by one, you will have to address it, and it will take time. But I think the Delhi government is very much aware of the challenges, and they are genuinely interested to meet to get into a solution. So everybody is working towards that.
So, Dr.
Siddharth, may I
Kundu,
come in here?
yeah,
Siddharth,
please. I was just about to tell you. Yeah,
I think the people in Delhi
right.
are very appreciative of the fact that the government is showing concern. The people at the high levels are out on the streets and trying to really fight this situation. But the very fact that all these high level leaders had to come to the ground level situation shows that the emergency arrangement which has been made is not adequate. And if that was there, then this was not needed. That is one point that I would like to mention. Second point that strikes me, which is quite independent of the politics in Delhi, I did an analysis of the ward-wise availability of basic amenities, 2001 and 2011. It's not possible to do that exercise for 2021 because we don't have the data coming. Now, what we showed in case of Delhi, that the inequality in availability of basic amenities, water supply, sewage, sanitation, electricity, the basic, requirements of life, the inequality has gone up during 2011. Although overall level of living certainly has improved. But what we find that the disparity, even in the poorer areas, things have become slightly better. But in the better off areas, things have become much better. So that the inequality has gone up. I was just wondering whether you have been able to, you have this in your consciousness that yes, this is something that has to be addressed. Second point I just want to mention one more thing. You see, people say that the absence of a drainage plan is responsible for some of these crises which is coming up. We had that drainage plan for Delhi for 1976, and I think new drainage plan is being prepared. IIT Delhi, as Arvindji says, that will involve the experts. IIT Delhi, one of the best institutions, was given this task. But what happened to that report? I was told that the report was not considered to be suitable for giving a roadmap, and they are again not being able to implement because it will take 3-4 years. Is it because the Aam Aadmi Party thinks that the result should be coming immediately? I understand that electoral requirement is that you have to show immediately that we are doing something. You don't implement a plan which will give benefits after 4 years. But nonetheless, I was told that instead of really looking at the report, which has been considered to be to some extent non-functional, they are now, consulting experts individually to find out the immediate problems, which is also very important. I just wanted to have your views on that, Siddharth, if you think this is an area that we could ask.
Definitely.
Yeah, sure. Please.
Amita sir, first thing, sir, you were talking of the data of 2000 and 2011 of access to basic amenities and inequality.
Yeah.
But in the last 8 years, after this supply of free electricity, after bringing in education reforms so that the slum children can also get best of the education, and 20,000 liters of water supply, as well as free brush right to women. I wish there is a data which shows how much these interventions has changed the disparity and has provided people some avenues to get even, because we have made it very universal. Our education policy, health policy, water policy, and transport policy has been remarkable, and it has really empowered the poor to come out of its fixation, and some sort of leeways, some sort of positive avenues have been provided to the low strata to come up, and it's I think the data, if current data, will be much different as we are discussing. And secondly, about the plan, IIT proposal, exactly I don't know what the government is doing with it, as I'm not privy to it. But one thing is sure, Arvind Kejriwal is much more concerned for the delights and its basic problems like sewerage, water treatment, water evacuations, and whatever he has promised to make the city of the European standard, and I know him in and out. Given the option, and if it is actionable, then any report that comes in the way that is actionable and implementable for the people will be done. I don't exactly know what aspect of the IIT report has been, making the government wait for it. But I can assure on behalf of my government and Arvind Kejriwal that he is very much concerned, and his priority is that to make Delhi best of the city.
Just a follow-up question, Mr. Mohapatra. When you say that the chief minister, he is in sync with the European standards, and he's in sync with the specialists, and so on and so forth. But there are yesterday a few of the senior ministers in the Aam Aadmi Party, they have categorically said that we had these systems in place, like 165 hotspots identification, high capacity sumps, automatic pumps, alternate drainage systems. So they said that they had these systems in place for quite some time now. So even though they had the systems in place, we actually saw how life
It was answered by Amitav sir that you can identify the spots, you can arrange for that. But if 3 days incessant raining will take place, 100 centimeter above, and it's a catastrophe. And it's a big, big amount of water that has to be drained. So it may have gone out of control, but the government has done its bit. It's not that the government is completely, out of sync with the situation, but the situation is such that it needs much more that has been in place.
Dr. Kundu, now coming to this very, very important question that of these extreme weather phenomenon. As we see these extreme weather conditions playing out itself in a very more, it is becoming more common. Be it your, be it your cyclones in the Arabian Sea, or be it other weather conditions. So now, given that, how should the city planners or the urban planners move ahead from now on?
I think it's a very, very important question. With the global temperature going up by 1 degree Celsius or 1.5 degrees Celsius would certainly make the occurrence of such extreme events much more frequent. There are two issues that I would like to mention here, Siddharth, and that has an implication for Delhi government. One is, freebie culture. You can't talk about Delhi government without mentioning that the freebie culture has now come to other parties also. But somehow the basic credit goes to, Aam Aadmi Party, which really thought about it, reaching the people. Of course, this had helped them in reaching the people. But as a result of this freebie culture, which now other parties, I'm not saying even BJP is talking about, various concessions, Congress is doing the same. As a result, what happens, you don't have much budget left for long-term infrastructural planning. For example, the suggestions that have been given IITs, which are long-term investment, you say, oh, look, we will postpone that. We will take care of the immediate things. So electricity subsidy, water subsidy, transport making free, that, appeals to the people immediately. The long-term investment in urban planning tends to get neglected. That is one point that I want to say, that should Aam Aadmi Party think about it, that no, our long-term investment in drainage system, there are 3 basins that has come out, Nazabgarh, for example, and also Barapula and Trans Yamuna.
Right.
Now,
right.
you can't say, since we did not have a drainage plan ready with us, we could not do it. Even 1976 drainage plan clearly states that no construction should be allowed on the drainage lines. No, it will not be allowed to put any, dump any construction material on the side, because that will really clog. Now look at the area where I live in Vasant Punjam. It is supposed to be one of the middle-class residential areas. It is no longer a residential area. It's an industrial area, because within a colony of if there are 500 houses, you find every day, at least in 20 houses, construction is going on. It's the housing industry which is prospering in residential area. You occupy any space, build up and down, demolish the whole building, construct, and government doesn't do anything about it. So that is something I'm saying, that is there a political will on the part of a government which wants to be popular and not populist? Not to really, it should stop people from encroachment in the drainage areas. It should stop people where things can go worse environmentally. Even in the residential areas, you find waterlogging is taking place because people have put all kinds of blockage to the drainage system. So these are the two issues. One is the infrastructural investment requires resources, and for that you have to mobilize funds and make people pay for certain services, and that is essential. And that has to be somewhere. And second is implementing the plans, and not allowing exemptions to come up, because you don't want to antagonize people. You don't want to make your vote banks unhappy by interfering and stopping them from encroachment. So these are the two issues that I thought I would flag in the context of Siddharth's question about long-term planning. Yeah.
The first part, sir, very quickly, you talk of freebies. I know you're a great economist, and your word matters a lot. But our government has never been shy of telling that we don't have funds to implement projects, big projects. We have enough of it. We are telling multiple times the Delhi budget, as I see it, has been improved a lot, and it's very much, this water, electricity, and the poor will pay, and it will be used for the long-term planning. It's I don't think it has the right correlations. If the government would have been telling that, yes, we don't have funds, for long-term projects, then there is a matter. But I don't think the Delhi government has is lacking in resources on that part. We have increased our budget. It has doubled after coming up our government in last 8 years. The budget has been more than doubled, and we have enough of it for long-term projects. Secondly, regarding this New Delhi development area buildings and its activities are coming under central government again. We have very limited power in that context, and the central government through LG, as you know, is a super bus. Ours is a popular government, ours is an effective government, but very limited power, and we have to work within that power structure. And the central government is hell-bent to deny us our legitimate role to serve the public, and that's the main context. There, whatever difficulties, whatever pendency, whatever problems, I can attribute to this dual governance in Delhi instead of a government that has its mind in place and has the options to implement its. As you tell, there is an implementation difficulty. Yes, there is an implementation difficulty, but it's not due to lack of the intent of the government. Rather, it's the hindrances created by the central government that is posing a challenge to us to address those hindrances, and as well as to serve the public of Delhi has been a challenge for us, and we think some sort of solution will come out to it.
Dr. Kundu, if I may ask you, as just to take this point forward, what Mr. Mohapatra said, in terms of duality or in implementation and the problems arising from it, talking specifically in terms of Delhi, Delhi being the capital, do you think a more cooperative way or a better way to implement such programs in terms of DDA, PWD, MCD, Delhi Jal Board, that can be one of the solutions, because instead of working in isolation, they need to work together, because this is a major issue. This is not a partisan issue. This is a major climate issue, which requires participation at all levels.
You see, I've been looking at the governance system in Delhi and also other metropolitan cities, and I have absolutely no doubt in saying that lack of coordination among multiple agencies, Delhi being a special case, you got a central level agency, you have a state level agency, you have local government. The problem of coordination is certainly very important, particularly when you're talking about pan-city infrastructure. Drainage, you can't plan from New Delhi and Old Delhi if there are municipal corporations, and then the central government, there has to be proper one central authority, under which there should be proper coordination. I entirely agree that the lack of coordination in the context of Delhi, and what we unfortunately notice, the acrimony between the state government and the central government, which delays many things. Certainly, this is something which needs to be resolved.
Sorted out.
And I personally think, I just wanted to respond to your point that there is no dearth of funds. The first lesson that I learned in economics is that resources are scarce. You realize in Delhi, when you have waterlogging in the poor areas, you say, yes, of course we have funds. I remember with Mr. Satyendra Jain, once I was interacting with him, and I told him in Vasant Kunj area, on an average, there are 2.5 cars. And if these households are not paying their electricity because it is a subsidized thing, I find no logic. Why do I not pay my electricity bill and see there is no waterlogging in my area? So I have a feeling that you can't say that, oh, we have enough. If we had enough, at least the quality of infrastructure in the poorer areas could have been really improved. We get concerned about drainage and heavy rainfall only when the main arteries through which traffic is to move, that gets blocked. because the elite class and the upper class, they are inconvenienced. As long as the water logging is in the Trans-Jamuna area, slum area, we say, okay, for 4 or 5 days, let them bear it. That is the problem. We have to identify the serious pockets of infrastructure deficiency.
So, if I may get your concluding comments from both the panelists, Mr. Mohapatra first.
No,
What is
our government has been, identified as a government of the poor. Each and every project that goes for Delhi has an angle and intent to address the poverty and the poor, facilitate the poor. So it's a contrast that we are talking that the government is lacking its intent to solve the poor. May not be it's the intention, but some people think that. But I find the government within its limited boundaries, limited power structure, with all the hurdles and its new governance, intent, is doing the best of its ability, and whatever more is to be done, some time has to be given to the government to set the things in proper perspective. And this urban infrastructure requires time. As we are talking of cleaning the Yamuna, we are talking of making Delhi self-sufficient in water. We are talking of sewerage management. We are talking of European standard roads all over the Delhi. So it will take time. But the intent of the government is very clear, to provide the best of the governance to the Delhites.
concluding remarks from Dr. Kundu?
I think that in the context of urban planning, there will be always the problem of coordination among multiple agencies. There is a local level government, there is a state level government, and here we have a central government also. And I think there can be always some edges of conflict. There has to be a proper urban planning framework to which everybody should agree. Otherwise, this kind of acrimony which goes on between, it is quite possible that the party in power at the local government and party in power in the state government are not seeing eye to eye. But nonetheless, there has to be a role of urban planning. There has to be a framework. In most of the European countries, that even if there are different parties, the plan becomes supreme. Once I was talking to the regional planner in the Paris Marla Valley area, and I said that, well, if there is violation, why don't you have, if the industries are getting located in residential areas? He was amazed. He said, in the residential area, no industry can come in, no matter which political party it is. He said, this is master plan, which is to be supreme. There has to be flexibility. That is the first point, that there has to be more coordination. And secondly, I think the government should implement it with some firmness. There should be some teeth. It should not be really populism, that you allow people to violate, allow people, kind of little more concession. There has to be a perspective, and people should be told all over the country that, look, urban dwellers are much better off than the average Indians. Delhi's per capita income is 3.5 times of the national income. And then you said, look, you want subsidies to come from rest of India, from the central exchequer. That is not fair. And the government should implement whatever rules, norms are there in terms of non-construction on the drainage system, so that the natural, assets that we have, drainages are natural assets, they have to be maintained. Thank you.
So thank you, gentlemen, for the discussion. I think we actually managed to touch upon many critical areas, and this is the environment, urban planning. These are subjects of great importance. Thank you once again to both my guests.
Thank you.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.